What cut the deepest was witnessing her prepare for her evening out. She slipped into lingerie and stockings that screamed seduction, and I watched as she meticulously applied makeup and styled her hair, taking far more time than usual. When she emerged in a sultry dress I had never laid eyes on before, paired with high heels that completed a look I didn't recognize, a wave of betrayal, jealousy, and anger surged within me. She was putting all this effort into looking irresistible, not for me, but for Ethan Rivers, her boss. She was making herself desirable to another man, stepping outside the boundaries of our marriage, while I was working my tail off to provide her with a good life and a family. It was utterly incomprehensible. Our sex life was incredible. Emily was always attentive, never hiding anything. She made me feel loved and cherished, so there was no reason for me to suspect anything. After 20 years of marriage, I thought I knew her better than anyone and never imagined she would betray our marriage. But then there was that night, about a month ago, at her company's dinner, when Ethan Rivers, the managing partner of the law firm, paid more attention to Emily than I was comfortable with. I noticed a smug look on his face when he glanced my way after dancing with my wife, like he knew something I didn't. That smirk gnawed me, and the unease I felt only intensified when I mentioned it to Emily the next day. Her immediate defense of him, trying to convince me I was overreacting, only confirmed my suspicions. Suddenly, all those late meetings and missed lunches started to look like red flags I should have addressed sooner. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Emily was Ethan's personal assistant, and Ethan, well, he was the big-shot managing partner of a prestigious law firm. The kind of guy who loved to flaunt his success with flashy cars, expensive jewelry, a lavish lifestyle, and a young trophy wife named Olivia, an incredibly sexy 30-year-old who replaced his ex-wife of 20 years. Ethan had this annoying habit of making jokes at others' expense, and I still remember how he ridiculed my work during one of our walks. You see, I sell screws and fasteners to large retail stores. It's not a glamorous job, but I pull in over $200,000 a year, which is more than enough to give my family a good life. I provided Emily with everything she wanted and made sure our daughter, Sarah, could go to college without a financial burden. Sarah was now in her second year. We lived in a nice community, surrounded by good friends, and enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle. Sure, I wasn't some high-powered executive pulling in $1 million a year like Ethan, but I thought we were happy. At least, that's what I believed. But that night when he decided to mock my job in front of my wife and others, it wasn't just his arrogance that pissed me off, it was the way Emily defended him after I expressed my frustration about being humiliated. "So, Tommy, how's it going with the nuts and bolts? Must be a blast working at Home Depot every day," he sneered. When I saw Emily laughing along, my blood boiled, and I left without saying a word. To her credit, Emily did come after me, asking what was wrong. But when I told her, she just brushed it off. "Oh, baby, he's just joking around. He loves to have fun. You shouldn't take everything so personally. Come on, he's a really good guy." Against my better judgment, I stayed for the rest of the evening. Looking back, should have recognized the signs sooner. Now I see I might have overlooked the warning signals. Damn it. I'm no fool, and I wasn't about to sit by quietly. I could understand why others might be drawn to Ethan. He's the alpha male, the big, strong, good-looking guy, the wealthy partner of the firm, the one everyone wants to be around. And Emily was his closest confidant at work, his trusted right hand. It didn't matter that he had a younger, sexier wife. A guy like Ethan always wants more. And laying claim to someone else's wife seemed like it was on his list. Well, over the next week, I moved quickly to find out if I was just being paranoid or if my gut feeling was right. After ordering 6 audio recording devices and 5 video cameras, I began executing my plan. The first camera went into the smoke detector on the ceiling of our bedroom. 2 more were positioned at different angles to capture the entire room. I placed the rest in the master bathroom and the living room. All of the cameras had live streaming capabilities, recording in up to 8K, and were wirelessly connected to a dedicated computer I set up in the attic, all controlled remotely via a phone app. The audio devices were particularly clever. One was hidden inside a pen, which I placed next to the kitchen phone, and another was discreetly stashed in her car. I also hid recording devices in her 3 favorite purses and one behind our bed. With this setup, I could capture at least 90% of her conversations and any activity in the house. A sense of dread loomed over me as I prepared for a business trip the following week. As usual, Emily was affectionate, rocking my world in bed just like she always did before I traveled. She started with lots of kisses and sweet talk, telling me how much she loved and wanted me. Her closeness and affection were things I always cherished, and she never failed to make me feel loved. "I love you so much, and I love making love to you, honey," she whispered. With tears in her eyes, she looked at me, smiling, and said, "I love you too, baby. You're amazing, and I'll love you forever." Those were her words as we shared an incredible night together. I felt so connected to her, so deeply in love, that I couldn't believe she would ever be unfaithful. For a moment, I almost scrapped my plan to spy on her. But, fortunately, I left everything as it was and headed off on my 2-night business trip. I wanted to give her enough time to show her true colors, if there were any. We shared a goodbye kiss, and by 6 p.m., I was on the road, starting the 3-hour drive to the hotel. The trip gave me plenty of time to replay the last 6 months in my head, trying to figure out if I had missed anything. Other than those 2 unsettling encounters with her boss, that smirk, and his attempt to humiliate me, nothing had really changed. As I drove, I started to feel a bit foolish, even paranoid, and a smile crept onto my face. Maybe I was just being stupid. When I finally reached the hotel, I checked in and settled into my room, sinking into the king-size bed. After a few minutes, I booted up my laptop, checked my work emails, and then clicked the link to the server in my attic to review the last 3 hours. I didn't expect to see much, but I needed to test the remote access system to make sure everything was working properly. I sped up the video playback, fast-forwarding until I spotted my wife in our bedroom. Then, I slowed it down to normal speed, thinking I'd just enjoy watching my beautiful, sexy wife making a phone call. What I wasn't prepared for was the conversation that unfolded. An hour after I left, the video camera picked up audio of her talking to Ethan. I could only hear her side of the conversation as she lay on our bed, speaking to her boss. "Hello, honey. He's gone, and I'm all alone. Yes, this time for 2 nights. When can you come over? Won't your wife notice you're gone? Oh my God, that's great. Can you spend the night with me? I really want to wake up next to you. Of course, I'm all yours, baby. What time will you be here? Okay, see you soon. I love you, baby." I sat there, stunned. We had just shared one of the most passionate nights of our lives, where she came at least 4 times, telling me how much she loved me. And now, barely an hour later, she was inviting him to spend the night. Who was this woman? How could she profess to love me so deeply and betray me so quickly? Was he really coming over tonight? For the next hour, I watched in horror as my loving wife prepared to meet her lover. Seeing her shower, slip into seductive lingerie, high heels, and carefully apply her makeup was both excruciating and strangely mesmerizing. I had always known she was a sexual being, and when she dressed like that, she was a vixen. But the painful truth was, she never dressed like that for me. Anger and jealousy boiled in my veins as I realized all this effort was for Ethan, not for her faithful husband. It was too much to take in. Was Ethan really going to show up tonight, or was this all some sort of misunderstanding? That question was answered a few minutes later when the doorbell rang, and I watched in real time as Ethan walked into my house and kissed Emily deeply, right in front of the camera. I zoomed in on their kiss, and it made me sick to my stomach for the first time that night. Wow, baby, You look incredible in that dress. I can't wait to tear it off you and make love to you all night long, he said, grinning at Emily with that wide, self-satisfied smile. The sight of them together enraged me, but that fury quickly morphed into a crushing pain as I watched her take his hand and lead him into our bedroom. The pain deepened as I saw her undress him, revealing his strong, muscular body and six-pack abs. I watched, consumed by jealousy, rage, and a twisted sense of admiration for this bastard. After my second round of vomiting, I forced myself to watch and listen as they had sex for the next hour. I knew, without a doubt, that my marriage was over, and I shouldn't have let it get to me. But their conversation afterward was the most excruciating part of the night. As they lay in each other's arms, he started speaking. So, your husband's gone for a few nights? That means you're all mine for the next 2 days. I'm so happy you can stay the night, baby. You know I've wanted to wake up next to you for so long. I love being with you, Ethan. And I can't wait for you to take me over and over again all night long while my husband works his ass off. What an idiot. Be nice, Ethan. I love him, and he's a good man. Then why do you let me have sex with you? Ethan, you're the sexiest man I know, and I love our sex. But we're both married, and we should just enjoy the time we have together. It makes sense. You give me more love and affection than my wife or any other woman I've been with. For me, it's more than just sex. I love the way you make me feel, Emily. Hearing him talk about love, a love that was supposed to be mine alone, broke me. I realized she was sharing that love with another man. I continued to listen, numb and heartbroken, as they hugged, kissed, and talked. Does your husband satisfy you as much as I do, Emily? He's a wonderful lover, but no, he's not like you. You do things to me that I can't even describe. I sat there, devastated, with a deep sense of loss. I couldn't bear to listen to any more of this betrayal in my own home and bed, so I turned off the computer. Hours of insomnia and seething anger followed as I realized that there was a lot of pain and revenge in my future. When I returned home, Emily acted as if everything was perfectly normal. She greeted me with a big hug and lots of kisses, pretending nothing had happened while I was away. But instead of the love I used to feel for her, I now felt nothing but disgust, and I recoiled from her kiss. Despite my emotions, I played the role of the loving husband, acting as if everything was fine. I collected all the recordings and videos, backed them up to the cloud, and created an encrypted file on my computer. Over the next 2 weeks, I made sure every second Emily spent with me counted. I kept her occupied, making sure there was no opportunity for quickies or late-night hookups. She even asked me when my next trip was planned. It was clear they were waiting for me to leave again. One morning, I overheard their conversation while she was driving to work. When's your husband leaving town again? I'm not sure, but I'll find out. It's gotta happen soon, baby. Knowing this, I planned a one-night trip to ensure he'd come over while I was gone. The plan was falling into place. That same evening, while I was casually watching a movie on TV, my unfaithful wife suddenly asked, "Darling, when's your next trip?" I had to fight down the surge of anger that threatened to show and instead replied with a forced, joking tone, "Honey, are you trying to get rid of me? Got a secret lover who visits when I'm not around?" She didn't miss a beat, and there wasn't a hint of guilt in her voice as she said, "Don't be silly. I like it when you're home. I hope you don't have to leave, and I'm just wondering if your travel schedule has been reduced." "No, sorry, honey. My job still requires me to travel. I do have an evening appointment next Tuesday, but I'll be back sometime on Wednesday," I answered, trying to keep my voice even. She responded with a convincing tone, "I hate it when you leave. I wish you didn't have to travel so much. I miss you terribly when you're gone." Then she walked over, hugged me, and kissed me deeply, making me feel a love that I now knew she was also giving to another man. The urge to scream and throw her to the floor was overwhelming, but I maintained my composure, knowing that my plan would unfold next week. On Tuesday, I packed for the supposed trip, and Emily and I had one final session of lovemaking. After tonight, there would be no more us. She kissed me passionately before I left, and I wondered if she noticed the sadness in my eyes when I looked at her one last time. Her expression shifted briefly, and I wasn't sure what she was thinking. Instead of leaving town, I drove back to my office, parked my car, and headed inside to work late, something that wasn't unusual enough to draw attention. The few people still there didn't question my presence. Around 7:30, the video camera activated, capturing Ethan entering my house and kissing my soon-to-be ex-wife tenderly once again. It was showtime. Using the phone app, I disabled the camera and put my cell phone in a drawer to prevent any GPS tracking during my trip. Quietly, I left the office, retrieved a folding electric bike from the trunk of my car, and set off on the 12-mile journey back to my house. The electric motor allowed it to reach speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, with a range of 50 miles on a single charge. Dressed in a black hoodie, I looked around to make sure no one noticed me before heading out. The bike was perfect for stealth, letting me return home quietly and undetected within 20 minutes. I parked the bike behind the house and slipped inside through the back sliding door, which I had left slightly ajar. Once inside, I stood still, listening carefully for any sounds coming from the bedroom. Satisfied that my presence hadn't been detected, I retrieved a short-barreled shotgun and an aluminum bat from the closet and carried them to the bedroom. I carefully placed the shotgun along the wall outside the bedroom, then picked up the bat and quietly opened the door to the candlelit room. They were making so much noise that they didn't notice a thing as I crossed the short distance to the bed. Without hesitation, I delivered a powerful blow to the side of Ethan's head. The dull thud of metal meeting flesh was drowned out by the heavy thump of the 250-pound beast hitting the floor. As he crumpled to the ground, I grabbed the shotgun and switched on the light. That's when Emily realized what was happening. Her eyes widened in shock, and she screamed, "Oh God, no, please no. This can't be happening. Why are you here? You should be away. Why are you with another man in my bed?" "That's the better question," I snapped back. "Now shut the fuck up and listen." The big man was barely conscious, now slumped against the wall with blood dripping from the 6-inch gash the bat had left. As he started to come around, I saw anger flicker in his eyes, but it was mixed with fear. "Damn it, that hurts. Why did you do that, man?" he groaned. "Are you kidding? You're screwing my wife in my bed, and you think I won't react? What are you going to do?" he asked, his voice betraying his nerves as he eyed the shotgun I was pointing at him. "Worried, big guy? Afraid I'll hurt you? You should be. I know what you two have been doing behind my back, and tonight's the night for payback. I'm going to kill you, Ethan. Tonight, you're going to die," I taunted, my voice dripping with venom. "Everything you've worked for is going to vanish. Hope it was worth it, asshole. Man, if you kill me, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. To hell with that. We're all dying tonight. How does that sound, idiot?" I wanted to instill the fear of God in both of them. Of course, I had no intention of actually killing anyone, but it was satisfying to see how terrified they were. I acted wild and unhinged, scaring them both senseless. Emily was crying, curled up, trying to cover her naked body with the sheet. "Baby, please don't do anything stupid. I love you, I really do. Just put the shotgun down, and let's talk this through," she pleaded. With a sinister grin, I pointed the shotgun at her. "Shut the fuck up. This is all because you wanted a little adventure outside of our marriage. Whatever happens tonight, it's all on you." They knew they were in serious trouble and that they needed to calm me down before I did something irreversible. The shotgun was loaded with custom-made rounds, 25% salt and 75% capsicum oleoresin, the stuff used in pepper spray. I wasn't planning on killing anyone, but I was definitely going to cause Ethan enough pain and damage to his genitals to last him a lifetime. I wasn't going to jail, and I wasn't going to commit murder tonight. But they didn't know that, and I wanted to scare them so badly that they'd never forget this night. As Ethan started to recover from the blow to his head, he grew bolder and made a move to rush me, probably thinking he could disarm me. I had been waiting for this moment. As soon as he lunged, exposing himself, I pulled the trigger on the first round. The blast was deafening, but his screams were even louder. He clawed at his face, unable to see or breathe, his lungs burning as he gasped for air. The pain must have been unbearable, worse than anything he had ever experienced. After a few minutes of watching him writhe and bleed, I gave the big man a hard kick to snap him out of it, all while keeping my eyes locked on my soon-to-be ex-wife. "Listen up, both of you, especially you, my cheating wife," I said coldly. "In a few minutes, I'm leaving. You're going to take this piece of trash to the emergency room before he bleeds out. You're not going to call 911. Instead, you're going to drag his sorry ass into your car and drive him to the hospital yourself. You won't tell anyone what really happened or that I was involved in any of it. In fact, you're going to tell anyone who asks that I had no idea about your little affair. If either of you slips up and mentions me, the videos, audio recordings, and photos I've collected will be sent straight to Ethan's wife and every partner at the firm. Plus, everyone you know will get a link to a website I created with over 2 hours of your sex scenes. I don't care what lies you come up with for the cops, but my name better not come up, and you better insist that I knew nothing about anything." I continued, my voice firm and unyielding. "You're not firing her either, Ethan. She's going to need that job once the divorce is final. And if either of you comes after me, or if she fights the divorce, I'll make sure everything comes out. At this point, it doesn't matter who gets burned. Now, get him to the hospital before he bleeds out, and remember what I said." I left the house the same way I had entered, fixing the lock and closing the door behind me. I put the bat and shotgun into a bat bag, slung it over my shoulder, and quietly slipped away. On the ride back to my office, I tossed the bat and shotgun into different parts of the river. I then removed the surgical gloves I had been wearing and disposed of them before returning to my office. Back at the office, I stashed the bike in the car and was back at my desk by 9 p.m., where I casually said goodbye to a few IT employees who were working late. As far as anyone knew, my car had never left the parking lot, and I had been at my desk all evening. If they ever accused me, it would be their word against mine, with no evidence to back them up. Ethan underwent surgery later that night. They had to shave his head to stitch up the 18-inch gash, and he suffered a concussion from the blow. The story he told the police was that the last thing he remembered was walking home with some paperwork for his personal assistant, and then suddenly waking up in the hospital. He claimed he didn't remember seeing anyone or being hit. He kept his mouth shut, knowing that I held the power to ruin his life and career. Emily was a mess and didn't say a word about what really happened. All she told the cops was that she heard a gunshot, found Ethan lying there, and rushed him to the hospital because she didn't think there was time to wait for an ambulance. Neither of them could explain why he was naked, and they both stuck to their stories. But Ethan's wife didn't buy his lies, and that soon became a major problem for him. The next afternoon, I spent my time removing the surveillance equipment, uploading everything to an encrypted cloud server, and discarding the gear. Any evidence that I knew about their affair was now safely out of reach in the cloud. Emily walked in around 6 p.m. and found me in the living room with a bottle of my finest whiskey in hand. I sat quietly as she took a seat across from me on the couch. She looked broken, utterly defeated. I had never seen her like this before, and for a brief moment, I felt a flicker of pity for her. But then, with tears streaming down her face, she finally broke down and tried to explain herself. "Tommy, I know what you saw was awful, but you need to understand, I wasn't in love with him. I know how it looked, and I know what I said must have hurt you. But you know me, and after sex, I just needed that connection. Everything I said, I meant for you, in my heart. It was always for you, baby. Whenever you left, I hated being alone, and Ethan would keep me company. Yes, it got physical, but it was just sex. You have to believe me. My jaw dropped at the sheer audacity of her excuse. Emily, I listened to everything you said, and despite what you claim, those words of love weren't meant for me, they were meant for Ethan. It's over, Emily. 20 years of what I thought were wonderful memories, thrown away because of your boss and your affair. We're both going to have to live with the consequences of your actions for the rest of our lives. So, thank you for all the pain and suffering you've caused me. I'll cherish it forever, I added, dripping with sarcasm. What do we do now? She asked, tears rolling down her cheeks. Well, we're done, that's for sure. I'll never understand how you could do this to me or why. I'll have to live with that forever. There's no way I can forgive what you did, but I'll keep my promise and won't expose your infidelity. Sarah and your parents will never know what kind of person you've become. I'll let you explain why we're getting a divorce, but let me warn you, don't you dare paint me as the bad guy. If you do, it'll end badly for you because I'll make sure everyone knows that you're nothing more than a cheating adulteress. I'm putting the house up for sale, and in the meantime, you need to find somewhere else to live. Since you've destroyed everything, you need to move out. This isn't a request. It's what you will do. Let me know where to send the divorce papers. Sign them and don't fight the divorce, or it will get ugly for both you and your boyfriend. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. He's not my boyfriend, and I don't love him. Can't we work this out? Isn't there anything we can do? I know it's too late after what I've done, but I can't live without you. I'll do anything to keep us together. I never wanted to lose you. Please don't leave me. Emily, if it had only been about sex, maybe we could have worked through it with counseling or a separation, but what truly killed my love for you was how you shared a love with him that was supposed to be ours alone. The words you spoke to him destroyed everything we had, everything I ever felt for you. No, I will never forget or forgive your betrayal, and I never want to see or speak to you again. Once the divorce is finalized, you'll be out of my life forever. Despite several hours of her begging for forgiveness, Emily left the next morning and stayed with her parents until the house was sold. Over the next week, the police questioned me, trying to get me to admit my involvement. I hired a lawyer, and we made it clear that unless they had evidence linking me to the incident, I wouldn't answer any more questions without a warrant. With no evidence and my alibi solid, they eventually left me alone. The incident was officially reported as a random burglary and assault. Emily and her family repeatedly called, begging me to reconsider. They claimed she loved me and couldn't live without me. They pleaded for forgiveness, urging me to seek counseling to sort things out. I stopped answering their calls and didn't open the door when they came by. I changed my phone number and cut off all contact with them. Yes, the loss was devastating. Every second of separation was excruciating, but the memory of her betrayal, of how she gave her love to another man, was something I couldn't reconcile with. Now, Emily was a 42-year-old single mother, living on her salary in a cramped one-bedroom apartment. The comfortable life she once enjoyed was gone. Her daughter and family figured out what had happened, and they were deeply unhappy with Emily's choices. They blamed her for the failed marriage. Emily found herself completely alone. Ethan, more concerned with salvaging his own marriage, treated her poorly at work, blaming her for both his physical and marital issues. Unable to continue working with her, he transferred her to an administrative role with the same pay, but the new job was tedious and devoid of prestige. Word spread that she was one of Ethan's ex-flings, and she was treated accordingly. Now stuck in a job she hated, with no prospects for promotion, no friends, no husband, and a family that blamed her for the divorce, Emily spiraled into depression. She cried every night, alone, missing me with every fiber of her being. Her heart ached constantly, and she was consumed with thoughts of her actions and the life she had lost. Sarah tried to help her mother, but it seemed there was no way back. Emily's health declined. She ate poorly, drank heavily every evening, and refused to take care of herself, saying there was no reason to try without Tommy. When Sarah turned to me for advice, I sympathized with her situation, but I could never get past the betrayal, and I never spoke to Emily again. Meanwhile, Olivia made Ethan's life a living hell. She forced him to move into one of the guest rooms and kept him around only to pay the bills. She began dating several younger men, using Ethan as arm candy for corporate events and business meetings, but they lived entirely separate lives. Ethan was left a shell of the man he once was. He would never have sex again, and he would never know true love. For the rest of his life, he'd remember how everything changed because of his desire to take another man's wife. His anger toward me was intense, and he wanted to hurt me in the worst way possible, but nothing happened for months. Later that year, while I was out for drinks with some coworkers, I was ambushed and beaten outside the bar until my friends came to my aid. The attackers fled before the police arrived, and I spent 2 days in the hospital with broken ribs and 20 stitches. I was certain they had intended to kill me, and if it hadn't been for my friends, they might have succeeded. I knew this was Ethan's revenge, and I wasn't surprised in the least. 6 weeks later, after I had recovered, I called Ethan's office. "Mr. Rivers, please," I said to his secretary. "Sorry, he's in a meeting. Can I take a message?" "Yes, tell him to meet me at 1 o'clock this Friday at the French deli across the street." "I'm sorry, sir. I don't schedule appointments with Mr. Rivers." "Just give him the message. Write it down, Friday, 1 p.m., French deli. He needs to be there alone. Tell him it's from Tommy, and he'll understand what it means. Thank you." I was sitting at the table facing the door when the asshole walked in, alone. He saw me and approached the table. "Sit down," I said. "What do you want?" he spat. Ignoring his hostility, I continued, "Thank you for coming today. Your people did a good job roughing me up, but unfortunately for you, they didn't finish the job. Since you didn't heed my warning to stop any revenge against me or my family, you forced me to act." I handed him a folded piece of paper. "Here's a link to a website that's been created just for you, asshole. Don't bother trying to shut it down. It's hosted out of Syria with 3 backup servers in different locations. It's untraceable. In other words, you're screwed. Check it out when you get back to your office." I erased Emily's face because she doesn't deserve to pay for your sins. She's already suffered enough. But after you look at the site, I want you to think about how your firm will react, how your wife will feel, how your children, friends, and family will see you after watching a 2-hour sex video. I'm planning to upload it to several popular porn sites, along with your name, profession, address, and phone number. His anger flared. "You've already ruined my life. I'll never be the same sexually again. Just stop this, or I swear you'll disappear. That's why we're here today, Mr. Rivers. I want to end this. You took away the most precious thing in my life, my wife. You destroyed our 20-year marriage, and I can't let you walk away free. I know I'm risking my life, as you've pointed out, but I intend to avenge the beating your people gave me. All right, calm down. What do you want?" 2 things, non-negotiable. First, you will stop any further retaliation against me or anyone I know, including Emily. Second, you will deposit $1 million into this account by the end of the day on Friday. If the funds aren't in the account by 9 p.m. on Friday, I will take action. I know what you're worth, and I know what I could get in a lawsuit, so consider this paltry amount a gift. And if I agree, how do I know you won't destroy me anyway? I'm a man of my word, and you'll just have to trust me. But I'll tell you this, if you don't comply, there's a 100% chance that website will become famous by Saturday morning. I hope you suffer for the rest of your life for what you did to my marriage. The money was transferred, the house was sold, and the property was divided. Emily had enough money to live comfortably if she continued working or found another husband. Ethan kept her employed as part of our deal, but they were never close again. Emily never remarried, rarely dated, and lived with the pain she had caused both men. She had lost her marriage and the love of the man she wanted to be with for the rest of her life, and now she found herself alone and depressed. She died before her 50th birthday, a broken, sad woman. Only her daughter, Sarah, was present at the ceremony to scatter her ashes. I continued working for several more years and eventually retired to a small town by the ocean. I married a kind woman who was a good match for me mentally and physically, but she could never replace the special love that only Emily had given me. I never spoke to Emily again and only heard about her through Sarah, whom I adored. We talked every day and remained close, but Sarah rarely mentioned her mother, knowing that I still loved her and didn't want to reopen old wounds. Emily's death saddened me, but it also brought a final sense of relief to the deep sorrow I had kept locked away for so long.